Welcome, grievers, and I'm so sorry you're here. The Stillbirth podcast was created by the bluestcircle.com, a webpage with a list of resources designed to bring grieving families comfort and information during and after their pregnancy loss. Usually, these podcasts are more focused on stillbirth than any loss, but all losses are included. Also, to prevent future losses and subsequent pregnancies for those that choose to pursue those. I'm your host, Ray Jagger, a poet, a yoga teacher, former birth doula, and lost mom to baby Fox in the stars, who is the guardian of my bad hair day. Today, we'll be discussing the ways in which someone might find meaning after loss. Our guest, Ana Vick, has been incredible at finding beautiful and powerful ways to parent her son, Owen. And she is also a warrior mom of 3, known as Still My Son on social media. And she proudly parents her middle son, Owen, who was unexpectedly born still, through her maternal health advocacy and stillbirth prevention efforts with Push for Empowered Pregnancy, Count the Kicks, and Sacred Birth Circle. She's very busy online. Ana, we are so happy that you're here with us. And you were actually the very first Instagram I found after Fox died. I, of course, went on Google. No, you were the very first one. I went on Google and I searched stillbirth. And I don't know if you recall what it was like for you on Google, but there were just a bunch of articles about what it was and how to prevent it by not drinking and smoking. And I remember feeling so insulted, having no information. And I just on a whim turned to Instagram, typed in the hashtag stillbirth, found your account first, and just sent you a message because I was so desperate and just so sad. And you were such a mama bear. And I will never, ever forget that, how kind you were. And you responded instantly to me. So welcome.
Oh,
I'm so glad you're here.
we're just starting.
You were the only one, I found you and I was like,
Honestly,
oh my God, this is the saddest Instagram, but this is my life now.
yeah.
And I think it's probably Instagram is where most people end up because there's nothing for Google. I think we are fighting a really big battle of trying to remove some of those articles and replace stuff like Push for Empowered Pregnancy so people can have some real resources. Otherwise, you have Star Legacy, which is just all about mourning the loss, but there's so many other things people need. So
What year was that you lost Fox again?
just last year, it was 2021 on Thanksgiving Day. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually the timing was, sadly right, because I know we're going to talk about why I even developed my page. Still, my son was really my personal journal for my loss because, you start to write about things like on Facebook and everywhere, and then you start to feel like it's not the space because you're
Mhm.
not getting any feedback. People don't really comment or like it, and
Right.
they start to feel like, am I like, it's a stigma, right? Like,
Yeah.
feel like a black sheep and I wasn't getting support there. So I, had my own personal Instagram that was just for my grief.
Mm.
Private. It was only going to be really for me and then anybody who found me and like I added back, and so I did kind of find that community of families and,
Yeah.
mothers, but there are some fathers on there that use it as well. And we're connecting. And, as I became more involved now with Push, I was a co-director awareness, when we first launched it. So I was like, I
Mm.
cannot raise awareness if my page is private, can I? Like, that seems a little contrary. I have to let myself be open about my own journey and, just share it out to the world. So I switched it to public within, it's been only a year and a half. So really it hasn't been that long that it's been
Mm.
public. So it's pretty crazy that you found it at that time.
Oh, wow. So you had just gone public then,
Pretty
pretty much.
much. Yeah.
Wow. And
Then
there,
I
I mean,
look back
after
on it.
you, there were other people, but you were the first one. You had the most content. You used your hashtags really smartly. So I'm sure there are a lot of other people who have found you that way.
Yeah,
And my
sadly.
first takeaway was that I'm still a mom because I think all the time about first time parents who lose their babies and how sad it is to even question if you're still a parent. And that is like your very clear first messaging. So I'm getting ahead of ourselves, ahead of us. Tell us a little bit about Owen's legacy you've created, and feel free to tell us his story. You have his bear with you, which is
I had to
beautiful.
have him here. He comes with me to most of my discussions about him because this is his weight, but also his length.
Mm-hmm.
Original mama bear. It's very special. company across the seas if anyone wants to look up this one, because they do make it the actual length and they put your little name on there if you want.
Mhm.
So I've only had this one recently. I actually never got one.
Oh.
And then when I saw that you can make the length, I thought, well, this is important for advocacy, because if you go and speak somewhere about your baby, they might not get it. They might think it's a miscarriage, which, it's also very sad, but they don't understand that I actually delivered a baby that was this big and this heavy.
Mm.
So, and I got that little tip from another advocate that she uses that as an example, to show
Yeah.
when she speaks. And I said, yeah, that's actually really smart. So I got it more for that, for the impact than for me, but I actually enjoy having him. I take him into my pictures now and everything. And, when I'm
Mhm.
feeling sad, I can feel his weight and everything. That's just, it reminds you it was real. And, as much as time has passed, my loss is so great that I need that, because you do start to feel like, why am I not crying every day anymore? Am I not like missing him enough? You even judge yourself for that. But
Mhm.
that's why I love what I'm doing now as an advocate, because I speak about Owen all the time still. And that's my way to mother him, to actually make a difference. And it's the passion that you have as an advocate for something that has affected you is so much greater than any force, and that's why we're doing so much with Push and with Count the Kicks, that has all those ambassadors that are just continuously joining this, because we do not want others to feel what we have. And if there's any way we can prevent it, that's, definitely important. And I think it also gives just this weight to your child's life. Like, I can't just sit here and do nothing, because that would mean to me, like, I just accepted it and it was fine. It happens. Like the doctor told me happens for whatever. Sometimes this happens, and I was like, no, you got to figure this out. This is my son we're talking
Right.
about,
Not
he's
not a good
like
response.
written off, So the whole situation that I'm in now, it's hard still, but I've been doing this for 7 years, being a parent after loss.
Mm.
So I'm a lot stronger, I feel like, and that's why I made it like, regardless how I feel that day, if I have to do a live or interview somebody, I make myself do it, because I know there's parents that are recent lost parents that need to see it, and
Mhm.
parents that are recently lost that want something done, because this is not right. It's an injustice. It's just, huge trauma to the whole family. And if I can be stronger than them right now and do it for them, for me, I have to.
Right. Yeah. So Owen would be 7 years?
Yeah, this October 3rd.
Oh,
We're
October
coming up on
3rd.
his,
Wow.
yeah, and it's hard because you start to like, you remember what they look like as a baby, but you can't like start to see like how they
Mm.
look like at 7. I have no clue. And I have a nephew who's 7. They were born only like a month apart. So I get to kind of imagine what he would be doing and that sort of thing. And, I obviously see what his little brother looks like and his sister. So I kind of try to space him in the middle, like what would my little Owen look like? And, when I talk to him, and I don't really like to refer him as a baby anymore. It's more like my child's missing and everything, because I do see him as aging, hopefully, he
Yeah.
would have been. But I guess I could tell a little of the story.
Yeah,
This is everywhere
absolutely.
all over the internet. So if you want the full on one,
Yes.
but
You
I
can
had
have many
perfect,
versions of this.
yeah, normal pregnancy textbook, they called it, which just is like nails on chalkboard whenever any other mother tells her story, because I hear this too often.
Ugh, yeah.
Uh, I had another daughter already, so I actually switched doctors, because I had gone through one where it was PPO, and it was very like a detailed place. I mean, they were great, but I just had kind of a bad situation with her birth that kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth, as far as
Mhm.
experience. So I was like, nah, I don't really want to go back to him. So I went to this other group, which was HMO plan one, and they kind of let you see different doctors all the time. And at the time, I didn't know anything about stillbirth and the fact that, inconsistency of care is one of the reasons we have so many.
Yeah.
So I wish I hadn't done that, but I didn't know any better. And so I went to this group that provided the basic care that we get in America, checking your blood pressure, whatever all they check. And that
Bundle height. You
very
look
few,
good, bye.
yeah, like hardly no one. I don't remember seeing Owen on ultrasound hardly ever. And I don't think I got many. They were so quick, and I always felt like, are they even talking to each other, these doctors, But since I had already been a mother, I'd delivered a baby. I think everyone was just taking for granted that it was just going to go all the way and no problems.
Right.
And my health had been good. I actually quit my job though because I was feeling really weak. And at the end, I was like, I shouldn't be driving. I just don't feel great. And
Mm.
all my doctor said was, it was my iron. Just take some more iron, and that'd be fine. I
No
did that,
problem solving to figure out
not
what it was.
questioning. Yeah, they didn't get deeper, which I do wish now. And so, if anyone's watching and pregnant, if you feel anything different about your body, yourself, and you just realize it, just keep pushing them to test things because they probably won't.
Hmm.
A lot of times people don't believe women in our symptoms, so that's a big problem.
Yep.
They're happening. So ended up the final day, I was so busy. Actually, my daughter and I were out all day, and my husband met us. We ate out. We went to her little dance class and everything. So he brought her back home, and I went to my friend's shop. She has a flower shop, and I was helping her out for a show. We stayed up late, just talking and everything. I felt great, you know. And then I dropped her at her house, so I didn't get home till like 10:30 or later at night. And that's when I like lay down and I was watching a little TV. I was like, he's feeling different. This is not
Hmm.
normal. Like he wasn't moving, and my son was very active. Owen always kicked like crazy all the time. So I hadn't heard, about kick counting properly, any of that stuff. So I never really did that. Actually, that's a misconception that people believe if they have an active baby, they don't need a kick count because everyone thinks you only need 10 kicks in 2 hours, which is another misconception.
Right.
Yeah, there's so many that just sets you up, right? So I ended up laying there and trying to kick count. I was Googling everything I could, and that's what they told me to do, kick count. And it was so late I couldn't call my doctor. So then finally I called the ER. I was like, this something's off. And so they're like, yeah, just eat a meal. It's probably he's just tired. It's the end of the night. Just might be sleeping. Eat a meal, and that might perk him up. I'm like, okay, eat a meal. So just like stuffed turkey in my mouth, which I never eat deli meat, but at the time that's like the only food in there, and just started eating it. And I'm like, but this is ridiculous. I'm just going to go down to the hospital down the street and just check on him. And
Hmm.
throw on my clothes and told my husband, and he stayed with our daughter at home. And I got there and I was just in tears. I was now at this point, like, you feel it, like your alarm bells going off. I was like hot red, like nervous. So, and they're like, don't worry, honey, everything will be fine. We're just going to check him out and then you can go back, just kind of no urgency on their end. Um,
Hmm.
and then getting checked in, and they made me change.
It takes so
Fine.
long.
Yeah, it was like an
Yeah.
hour. I don't even know. It took forever to get in there. Finally, they gave me put the heart monitor on, and my husband was on speaker, and we both heard the heartbeat. And we're like, oh, so relieved. He's fine. I just overreacted completely.
Hmm.
And no one said anything. No one told me anything was wrong, but his heartbeat was already low when I got there. And within an hour, they had the ultrasound machine on me too, and they weren't communicating anything. And I asked the lady, I was like, so is he still a boy? Like, I was just trying to get something out of her. And she's like, that's not what I check when I do these things. And she just kept doing her thing. I'm like, these things, like, what are we doing here? Like, I was just like
Communicate, please.
making sure he's fine. Okay. Sorry I asked. And then
Good.
next thing you know, this other nurse walks in, asked her, what's the heartbeat at? And she's like, we want to know now. Like, I'm in the middle of whatever. She was checking. And she's like, yeah, now doctor's here. And so she told her, and it was like way down, like 50.
Oh, God.
And still, I didn't know at the time what any of this meant. I still
Right.
assumed he's okay. We're just going to check on him. Okay, he might need something. And that's when everyone flew in, and my doctor too. And he's like, we're taking you in C-section right now, or you have to get him out. I'm like,
Hmm.
what? Like, he's actually 2 months early to the day. So
Hmm.
he's due December 3rd, and he was born October 3rd.
Hmm.
And so I was just like, "Oh, he's too young, he'd be like a preemie, like this is too
Hmm.
early." And they're like, no, this is the only way that he needs to come out. And
Right.
I was like, well, my husband's not even here. You guys didn't tell me anything's happening. And so they're like, well, you can call him, but he probably won't make it because it's gonna be quick. So I called, and on speaker, my husband's like, don't worry, I'll be right there. And we got a friend to watch Naomi. I guess I'm
Mhm.
telling you the long version of this. Sorry.
It's okay.
You never gonna cut things out. But she came, and he rushed there, got there. I was cut open. They let him walk in while they were resuscitating my son. So it was like
Mm.
the
My God.
reason he's like a PTSD of a war vet now. He cannot calm down, like anything
Oh,
triggers.
yeah.
So they told him, your son didn't make it, and they called time of death in front of him and everything. So I let him hold him, immediately just handed him his dead
Were
son.
you out at this point? What did they do to knock you out?
Oh yeah, they put the mask on
Okay.
me. I thought I was dying
Uh-huh.
when I was put under because I never had that experience, and
Right.
they talked me through it. I was like, oh my God, like I may not wake up from this,
Right. They probably didn't communicate anything. They had to move so
No.
quickly. Would have been
So
cool if they told you, but
I looked at the woman, I'm like, "What are you doing to me?" Because I had no clue this was happening, and she's like, "This is fine, you just gotta count down, this is how" I'm like, "What?" I, like, start praying, like, "God, please don't let me die here. I have my
yeah.
daughter and my husband, they need me." And I started praying for Owen. I was like, "Please protect my son." And I was gonna say his name, Jackson, which is the name we had planned to name him. And
Mm,
it's just weird, like, I remember hearing his name, Owen Nathaniel, spoken to me in, like, a man's voice, which now I'm like, "Was that God? Was that him?" Like, I don't know, because
guardian angel.
someone told me the name, and so when I woke up, my husband was there, everyone's quiet, and I'm, like, coming out of the haze of the anesthesia, and I'm like, "What's happening here?" And they're like, "She's awake," and they brought the doctor in, and
Mhm.
he's so sorry he didn't make it, and I was like, "What?" Like, just the shock, and I was just, like, wailing like a wounded animal. I was like, "No," my baby, and, um, my husband was telling the nurse said, "Where did you name your son?" And he started to say Jackson. I was like, "No, it's not, it's Owen. It's Owen Nathaniel." He's like, "What? Where'd that come from?" But it's actually one of the names we had thought of earlier on, and it means little warrior, gift of God, so I think it's fitting
Mm.
for him.
Oh, that is so fitting for you too.
Yeah, he's my little warrior, but
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
And you mentioned your husband having PTSD, but imagine going into a hospital thinking you're just getting a small check on your unborn baby, and then you're thrown into a crash C-section with no warning. So,
No, and I had to go back to get records there, and every time I walk in that area, like, I'm hyperventilating, I'm having a panic
yeah.
attack. I hate that place, and it's goes back into my story for my rainbow baby, but that's actually where we ended up the week after he was born. He had to go to the NICU for jaundice, and that was the closest one, so we didn't want him far from home, so we went there, and I was, like, terrified. I'm like, "They're gonna lose another one of my sons now," like,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
God, no, because I knew they weren't that great there, but it's like, I don't know what to do, so I just stayed with him the whole time. I didn't sleep at home. I was like,
Mhm.
thank God he got better within like 2 days, but
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
and then with Owen, like, I think the reason I honestly did everything now that my page has become open and public, I'm just talking about all the things that I wish someone had told me to, immediately after, and trying to be there for another parent who might be going through it, fresh, because I do remember too looking online and I didn't find much.
Hmm.
And there's definitely nothing talking about prevention at that time and like what causes stillbirths. And so I felt really horrible. I felt guilty, like it's something I must have done. I didn't have a cause of death because my doctor told me sometimes healthy babies just die, quote, which just shocked me and made me feel horrible. And I was like, what do you mean they just die? Like, did he have a heart attack? Like, can you be more
Right.
clear about what just happened? And they did not want me to autopsy because the NICU doctor actually talked me out of it. She's like, it's just, blah, blah, blah. I don't even want to say it here because it's foolish. And I think it's just a conflict of interest for someone who lost the baby to be able to talk to you about this. But I think, she didn't necessarily want me to find the cause. So that's how I feel about it. And, whatever her reasoning for that,
Oh, it makes me so
feel like
mad.
covering your
People want
track.
answers.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
need that. You need that for your closure and for you not to feel the guilt that we carry so unfairly anyway.
Right, because it's almost always not our fault, and the information we're getting online from, like, Google is in direct conflict with that. That information makes it seem like you have done something to kill your baby, and you are not in your body making little cord compressions or making a small placenta. It almost always has nothing to do with what you've done with the baby, so it'd be nice to remove the one little piece of guilt by giving people answers.
Yeah, so what you said earlier, I actually Googled it and I found March of Dimes and other sites that all had the things that were risk factors that it did not apply to me. None of
The
them.
March of Dimes is up
So I
there.
was like, what does this mean? Like, how did it happen to me? And you never expect it to happen to someone who's healthy and going through prenatal care and taking the vitamins and eating healthy. And active and good health. Like it's just baffling. So I would spend every night Googling, trying to figure out the cause, like every little thing in his medical record, like, oh, they did do that wrong as far as resuscitation, everything, I wrote down everything. I was going insane, losing my mind, trying to figure it out, I couldn't rest till I could figure it out. But I couldn't find anything. I'm not a doctor and they weren't really working with me on figuring it out with me. So at the end of the day, I had to let it go. And, we were still trying to have another sibling for my living daughter. So kept trying. I had another miscarriage, so that was my third loss because I had a miscarriage before Owen. And this was now with a really good high risk doctor. So I knew that, there's nothing could have been done there. I mean, I might have had a blood clotting disorder. I still don't know. I still haven't had those tests done, but
Yeah. And those are very expensive and accessible tests for some people.
yeah, I actually might do it. I have my doctor wrote up the orders now, and I'm like, should I
Oh,
find it?
good.
I
Yeah,
just don't.
that's what I have. I
Yeah.
mean, and not all doctors believe in it though. So like to have the MTHFR gene is one of the clotting factors that makes someone more likely to have missed miscarriages and just miscarriages that are recurring. But some doctors don't believe in it because the data doesn't support for all the people, 60% of Americans who have this gene, not all of them have recurring miscarriages. It's more complicated. And that's another example of fertility, people being the only ones who believe in it, and other even high risk OBs being like, oh, yeah, we don't do anything for that because we don't believe in it. And it's like, but fertility specialists do. So you should.
Mhm. Yeah, so I finally found the cause of death now 6 years later with Dr. Kleiman, who does the placenta pathology. And so I was with Push, and he's one of our medical advisors, and we were talking to people about, oh, he can help you find answers. And I do all these interviews with him all the time. Like, why am I not asking him to look into my stuff? Like, for
Mhm.
one, I need to know what the process is like if I'm going to be telling people to do it and put themselves through it. Because I know part of the reason I didn't start to do it with him was I was just afraid of what would come. Like,
Right.
you're gonna then make me feel worse, like I did mess up
After
something.
all those years, getting an answer is really hard.
Yeah, and so I was
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. And it actually took me over a week to fill out the form, which is not a big form. Like, if anyone's done it, it's like 2 pages of just literally like when were your pregnancies and nothing
Mhm.
crazy on there. But I was so anxious. So finally send it in. And I didn't realize I had got it back because I think it went to my junk mail or something. And I talked to him and he's like, yeah. So he had sent it within like 3 days of sending it to him.
Wow.
It was so fast. And I thought, I told him if you don't have anything to work with, like, because I was going to pay for out of pocket since mine was way after. Sorry, my husband. Yeah, it was way after, so I didn't realize like if they were gonna find the placenta slides. I didn't know how that worked,
Oh
and
yeah. They keep
he
them for
took
10
them out.
years.
They were there. They kept them. So I was so shocked, first of all, that they could even do anything because I thought I'll never have a cause because I did an autopsy. My doctors hardly wrote anything in my records, like they were just so basic. Uh,
Mm.
so getting this report, and I read it live on Instagram. If everyone wants to go back and see that one,
Mm.
I was like, I'm going to read it to people. I don't know what I'm going to read, but I'm going to read it out loud.
Good for you. I've not seen this live. I
To
need to go
show
find
them
it.
what it feels like to find out,
Yeah.
and I was literally in shock. Like, I don't even know what reaction I gave on the video, but
Mhm.
I was like, okay, so at the end, he puts a little summary. So I kind of just looked at all of it and I didn't really know what I was looking at. And at the end is the summary and it says the definitive cause was cord compression.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
that just like lifted so much off my shoulders because I'm like, cord compressions, like I still don't get what causes that, but I know it wasn't me. Like,
Yeah,
there's no
there's
way
nothing you can do.
I could have stopped the compression.
Yeah.
The only thing I do feel now is if I had been educated on the fetal movement, maybe I would have noticed prior to when I noticed it that he was decreasing or changing movements. And some people do report like more crazy, frantic movements prior to a cord loss. So that would have possibly helped if I had any ideas about that. So that's why I talk about stillbirth stuff so much. I'm like, maybe a mother who's pregnant will hear and say, yeah, my baby's like extremely like doing karate kicks right now. Like, this is abnormal for him. And I'm going to go in and then they're going to check and they're going to see something with the cord and hopefully they'll
Mhm.
save that baby, which I know I've had stories, people report back to me that they've saved their baby. So I'm like, hey, if I have to tell people this stuff, which, some people might feel ashamed, like, oh, I didn't know about kick counting, but it truly don't blame myself. Like I didn't know what I didn't know. And, I was healthy all along. None of my pregnancies, they really go into it in
Yeah.
detail. I don't
It
even think
can't be all of your job to know every single thing. And even as a doula who had served many births and a birth educator, I always thought 10 movements in 2 hours was right. I even had an app that had that outdated information on it. I think it was the Ovia pregnancy app. And pregnancy apps in general are like not that great. They're very general. They don't tell you warning signs to look out for. And for those listening, what's so important about Ana is not only is she like telling her story about Owen and Still My Son, Push for Empowered Pregnancy focuses their energy on pregnancies and obviously caring for parents after loss and like that support, but making sure that people have the information that they're not getting from the medical world through people like Ana who are sharing things like that and kind of trying to change all the misinformation that's out in the birth world via Google, via all the natural birthers that are on Instagram and are telling people to trust their bodies, but aren't saying like, here's what might be a warning sign. So she's doing like a lot of different things, and it's supported by Push for Empowered Pregnancy and Count the Kicks. So those are two of the big resources that you are getting this information out with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think having the cause of my loss change who I was as a person because it made me have a voice. Like now I can talk about core issues because I know that that is what happened with me. Before it was like, I don't even know why my son died. So how am I going to help anyone else? How am I going to warn them? And the more I learn, and I've gone to everything. I've gone to all the stillbirth conferences, including the one that just passed last year, an international one. I stayed up like overnight. Like I've literally gone really deep into educating myself in the last couple of years because if I'm going to speak on it, I want to be an expert. And
Mhm.
I think I actually am compared to even some OBs who probably just still think it just happens and it's natural. Like it's one of the things that
Right.
happens. But the rate is so high that to me, you can't just say it's accidental. It's not in that level of like they want you to think where it's like, oh, it's like being struck by lightning. And no, that's not true. It's one
There's
of one.
patterns too that have emerged. So we know if there are patterns, then there are things we can do to prevent. Yeah,
Right.
you are
No,
absolutely
I
right.
hear the similarities in all our stories and it makes me so angry, especially when I hear the provider side saying like, "Oh yeah, your baby's just getting ready to be born. It's fine. That's normal. Oh, you have your scheduled C-section in a week. No, it's okay that they're not moving a lot. Well, you'll be fine by then." It's like, why not listen right when someone's telling you there's something different here?
Right.
And so many baby safe stories on Count the Kicks if anybody doubts this because I
Mhm.
know that there is doubt as far as if kick counting really can help, and some people just don't believe in it. And obviously, it's true. There's over 100 baby safe stories already on there, like
Yeah.
reported with pictures and the whole story. And who knows how many more from that because it's a trickle effect. It's like a butterfly effect. I think of butterflies with Owen. And I think, one person learns this from you and they're going to tell their friends. And the next time someone says something that, oh, my baby's not kicking the same, they're going to say, well, get your butt in there. They're not going to say, oh, that's normal because a lot of our culture is to make people not worry, like pregnant women, oh no, don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Don't get stressed out.
Gaslighting.
We want to stress out the baby or something. Like instead of encouraging and supporting, which is what we try to do. And we don't want anyone to be overly worried. But I think knowing the risk and hearing stories like this can empower you to where you feel a change and you say to yourself, I'm going to trust my intuition. I'm going to go there immediately and I'm going to demand like additional tests if I'm not comfortable. I'm not leaving until I have, my baby back to normal or everything's clear.
Right.
But even stay overnight, like which is what I did with my rainbow baby. Once I knew there were issues, I was like, I'm not leaving without him.
Good for
You
you.
deliver him, or I'm going to stay here. And so my last week of pregnancy, I was on the hospital bed rest. I'd been on bed rest the whole time anyway. I'm like, I want to be here with the monitor now.
Hmm.
There's no way I'm going to continue this pregnancy at home.
Yeah.
So I had a low fluid and I didn't even know
Mhm.
Owen died from cord compressions, but I had read about it. I said, low fluid, something
Yeah.
about cord compressions. No.
And they try to say your fluid replenishes. Like, do we want to take that risk? No.
No, and my doctor was an hour away from my house. So I was like, by the time I get back here again, if I feel a change, I won't make it, you know?
Yeah,
So
you're exactly right.
learn
There's
a
an
lot.
easy question you can ask yourself. It's not easy necessarily, but anxiety is there to help us when there is something really wrong, especially now. I'm not 14 weeks yet, but I'm going to be 14 weeks soon, and I keep telling myself like, is that anxiety? Is my trauma from having dead fox what's driving my fear, or is there something really wrong? And almost always my intuition will tell me when there's something wrong, but it took having a dead baby to get there. And we don't want our listeners to have dead babies to have to know how to count the kicks. We want people to just trust their own intuition, even if it feels wrong because it inconveniences a hospital staff or because they look at you funny, like it's your baby that you have to live with losing the rest of your life. And unfortunately, it's on us to fight for that. It shouldn't be on us. People should welcome us in and say, we listen to moms here, but they don't.
Accountability, because for the majority of states, you cannot sue for a stillbirth. So
Yeah,
we're sitting here like, you just let my baby die. You told me it was fine, and yet there's no way, even if there was like a severe malpractice situation, like you can't do anything. So that's why I do feel like it's up to us to fight for these our own babies and other people, to let them know that, because yeah, if you feel silly or you're bothering too much or you went yesterday, who cares? If you
right,
have your baby home, that's all that matters. And I guess most people, like I at the time, we don't think our baby's just gonna die. Like, where would that come from? Because nobody was talking about stillbirth to me or anyone. So
you never
I
think
don't
it's
know.
going to happen to you.
I mean, I don't honestly, I didn't know about stillbirth. I didn't know that your baby could just die in your womb. I knew like there were accidents at birth, and I knew that you can have a miscarriage. No one had ever spoken to me about this in between that I ended up in where my son was dying, and they were trying to rescue him. But, where women find out that the heartbeat stopped. I had never heard of that.
Right,
For a healthy pregnancy. If I had, I probably imagined the baby had an issue or the mother had medical issues.
right,
So that to me wasn't even a thought that my own son would die because I was so healthy and he was healthy the whole time. Like, no.
right. I was in the same boat. Anna, I have one last question for you, and it's my prioritized question because you are really a misinformation warrior. You were always out there trying to stop people from saying things like there's no such thing as a due date or placentas don't expire. We know there is lots of data showing that after 40 weeks, placentas do stop working as well, and there are risks for going longer than your due date. So you, I think, try to balance out the natural birthing world, which is also like listen to your body, but don't listen to the scary things. So if you had any like important message, or what do you want the natural birthing world to know about having a dead baby that might have them interact out in the world with more empathy or understanding, what would you want them to know?
So you and I, like not long ago, started the Sacred Birth Circle.
Mhm.
I kind of needed your encouragement because I know I don't know nothing really as far as being a birth educator, let's say.
Mhm.
Like, I don't consider myself that yet. Maybe I'll get some courses and feel more that I have the right to say that. But I was like, I need a page where it feels more natural, like where we're talking about pregnancy and we aren't like in your face with the stillbirth thing right away, but
Right.
we can talk about any kind of risks that you might come across, or even just like normalizing C-section births, because
Yeah.
people who have C-sections like myself, like sometimes we feel shame that, oh, I couldn't birth naturally and my body
Mhm.
didn't do what it's supposed to, because of that, all that rhetoric, which is shameful, is shaming of women that do have to have interventions.
Right.
So yeah, I love that we did that. And I've kind of taken over because I feel like you were like, I got a lot going on, but I
Mhm.
know like you have my back if I need
Mhm.
more
I
information
feel
or
less sick now and I can contribute more.
but I've been interviewing all kinds of people because even I'm going back and forth. Like I'm a very medical person, like OB or MFM,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to like doulas. I want to show everything because that's what I feel like is missing in the birth world is the communication.
Right.
Everyone is so against each other right now. It's like cats and dogs, and it's like
Yeah.
everyone wants to villainize each other, alienate each other, and what that does is actually harm the families. I don't give a F what side you're on. I just
Mhm.
want these babies born alive. So
Right.
stop with this, like, making a doctor look bad just so that you can sell your birth course. It's not right.
Mhm.
It's not nice, first of all, because some doctors are great, and, like, I think many did this for the right intentions of helping
Right.
families, and they wanna, support them, and they just might have the wrong system, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it's really mean-spirited. There's a lot of hatred in the birth world, and where I feel like we want to just support parents. We want to make sure you guys have a happy ending, you have a happy, healthy outcome.
And
You
you don't have generational trauma from having a dead baby. We're also protecting moms and
yeah.
dads and
And
parents.
I think that the talk about like, oh, your body will know what to do. Well, you're setting up somebody because somebody might
Nope.
in that position where she feels a change and she's going to say, well, no, that's my birth course told me, don't worry about that, and she's not gonna want to trust OB who's telling her, look, you have a failing placenta right now. They're like, oh no, you just want me to have a C-section because you're going on vacation. All these little thoughts that you're putting in her head might stop her from getting the intervention that could save her baby. And I can't tell you that this isn't happening because I actually know for a fact it is happening because I have parents who try to have home births or natural births. And because of the way that they were going about their pregnancies, trying to really,
Indoctrinated.
yeah,
Yeah.
indoctrinate. I feel like it's a cult in a way, which is like, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like
Mhm.
you're literally just talking about these things that you want in their head, and they're good mantras and they're good ways for you to kind of feel like empowered and like, oh, if you are going to be able to do it, it might help you in that sense, I guess. If you're birthing, you're like, okay, I got this.
If you're
But
lucky.
not throughout the pregnancy, not when you start to have those red flags and things, going off in the bells going off and you're like,
Yeah.
something's wrong here, but I have to trust my body. I have to trust my baby. So that's my concern. I honestly love the idea of a natural birth. I didn't get to have one other than like we joked about before, my miscarriage.
Mm.
I had to pass naturally and it was so painful. Nobody talks
Oh,
about
yeah, it's horrible.
and no one gave me medicine. So I did have that horrible experience, but I never got to have the beautiful natural birth, which I would have loved. So I want that for everyone who wants that. But I think you need to let them know the risk of a stillbirth in certain situations. And all pregnancies, sadly, are at risk right now because even low risk pregnancies have them. So that also bothers me that people say, well, if you're not a good candidate for home birth, you shouldn't do it. But low risk pregnancies, there's no reason why they can't do it. I'm like, well, you don't know every pregnancy, first of all. So
Right.
you can't say because she's a low risk pregnancy that she should go ahead and do this at home and not consult her doctor or anything about this because every pregnancy is low risk before it becomes high risk or before you
Exactly.
have a stillbirth. A lot of low risk pregnancies end in stillbirth. That's actually the higher rates. So statistically, you're more likely to have one. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of misconceptions. And I mean, I think they're just trying to make people feel comfortable that they could do it so that they could buy their courses. And I hate to say people have those kind of intentions, but we all have to make money. But I just think we need to be honest and tell them the risk and let them make an informed decision,
Yeah.
not make it for them. You know,
Absolutely. Let
not
them refer to professionals, not someone who doesn't have any medical background that is making a PDF or Canva course on how to do something. Even if it's unawareness on their end, that's not a motivation for telling people what to do with their bodies because you don't know someone else's body. Yeah. That
you know,
is an
and
excellent piece of advice.
it does make the other moms too, though, that had either a loss or had to accept interventions feel ashamed of themselves and feel like they're lesser women because
Right.
they couldn't do what that woman did. And so I think it's just like let's take the negativity out of the conversation, bad mouthing each other's stuff. And I'll apologize for saying it was a cult earlier because
I mean,
whatever.
it's a little bit. It is a little bit.
Well, the reason, let me explain them because the reason I say cult is because if you get in there and you try to say otherwise what they're commenting about, and you say, well, actually, you can have a stillbirth in this situation, or you try to give a fact about the placenta, they will immediately cut you out. They'll either block you or they'll go at you really hard. And
Mhm.
additional other people who are in their circle will then go and like comment really meanly towards you as well. And it's almost to the point where I don't comment. I don't want to get in there. I don't have time
It's
for
not
that
worth it.
for that. But they don't want to hear it. And that's
Right.
where whole feeling comes from me. It's like you drank the Kool-Aid, you don't want to hear the truth, you don't want to hear the reality. But I get it. Like you're in love with the idea, and it is beautiful if you haven't had a loss. And I think
And
those
maybe it worked for you. And if you think it
yeah,
works for you, oh, why wouldn't it work for everyone? And it's
that's
like,
what I mean. The survivor's bias is what I chalk it up to. And maybe if I never lost a baby, I would be the same, where I'd be like, oh, well, yeah, sure, everyone go on do what you do. But I know the reality. And so
mhm.
I'm trying to share that. And I feel like I wish people would be more open to it before it happened to them. Then I think we can have real conversations and really try to prevent more losses, the goal. That's all I care about. I don't make money off of talking. I'm losing my voice right now talking. But I talk all the time. I try to get it out there as far as prevention. We're doing a lot with bills. We're trying to push Shine for Autumn Act right now.
I have a call with McConnell's office next week, and I'm very nervous about it.
Awesome. No, you're going to do great.
Yeah, I hope
They
so.
just want to hear our stories and they want to put a face to what's happening. And
Yeah.
it's one thing to say we're losing 23,000 babies a year, and they're just thinking of it like, oh, these pregnancy losses. Well, no, it was Fox and Owen, and they had a room ready, and they had siblings, and
And we still had to birth them out and hold them, whole babies with features. And yeah.
yeah, you can never forget that. It's not the same. Oh, I had a picture of my baby. Here's my Owen.
Oh, I don't think I haven't seen that picture in so long. I so often see you with your teddy bear.
This is the blanket they give you one of these, and so I have this in a Ziploc bag.
I have foxes in our closet.
I have it saved, so like every now and then I'll smell it to be if I could
Mhm.
smell his scent.
Yeah.
And then that little beanie, I think oh yeah, I have that. Actually, that's in the framed little box frame I have. But yeah, we ended up burying him in like one of the only outfits we bought him, because we didn't buy a lot of stuff for him for some reason. I was thinking I had Naomi's hand-me-downs, which were all like gender neutral because we didn't know what she was. So I didn't go crazy shopping for him. And so he's in this like little teddy bear outfit, like a zip up one, little blue.
Mhm.
And he actually has a little warrior shirt, which is like a little like soldier kind of warrior, a gladiator thing, like stripes and stuff. But my husband, when I was trying to figure out what to put him in, I was looking for like the white outfits, for like baptism and stuff.
Mhm.
Or yeah, I guess the baptism. And he's like, "What? You're not gonna put him in a suit? I want him to be comfortable." So
Oh, that's fair.
we
That's
went
fair.
with the comfy outfit.
Mhm.
Yeah. Actually, I have another one I was gonna show you too, which is I posted this one before, but
For
this,
anyone watching, we love sharing pictures of our babies.
this is a pregnancy one. Oh, can you see it?
Oh, I can see it when you hold it back there. Yeah.
So that's
The only
Owen.
thing you have are memories of when you're pregnant.
Look how little Naomi was.
I
They
know. Oh my gosh.
She's actually 6 years older than
She
her.
is so tall.
Yeah, but they would have been closer in age. So that was like a birthday party that my husband had us go to. I was like, I always felt good. That's the thing when you look back at your pregnancy, like what point did it go wrong? And
Right.
it makes me so sad when I have new friends find me and I look at their previous photo from the loss. It's always the baby shower almost. It's always a
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
beautiful big event. And I'm like, this is so heartbreaking because this woman in this photo was just so ready and everyone was welcoming her new baby and everyone's so excited and got her all this stuff. And then I was talking about the mom, the husband, of course,
Yeah.
too, or the partner. But then the next picture is usually a sadly, I have to announce this, and it
Mhm.
sucks. I'm like, I hate seeing it because it makes me so mad because we're all so blindsided.
Right. And then you can never access that former self. Like
Mhm.
looking back on just our very last vacation with Fox, where I was like, he's not moving a lot, but it's 28 weeks, and like he's just establishing a pattern of movement now. Like even at the time, I was like, it's still like this great vacation we went on. And I look back at the pictures and it makes me ill, like how could I be so happy and not know? And it's so hard to act like there's life before and there's life after. And looking at the pictures, you're just like visiting the past. You don't ever get to return to that same
Yeah.
person.
So, and I just posted my reel about reducing breast milk, suppressing breast milk,
Mm-hmm.
breastfeeding awareness month. And I've been thinking about, like, no one told me what to do. Like,
Oh my
my
gosh.
doctor gave me like the tip, I guess, about bras and like really binding yourself, which Actually, one of the
Oh,
comments had said that can give you mastitis, like do
it
not.
gave me mastitis. Yeah.
So I did a little tip reel because I was thinking, we need to talk about this. And I didn't almost post it because I
Mhm.
was like, this feels so personal and hard for me because I went through this and I feel so like it was such a shameful period as a woman to suppress milk
Right.
and have it come in for a baby that I couldn't feed and, have this really uncomfortable, like you go to the funeral with your breast engorged and leaking, and that stuff people don't know that's happening to you.
No,
You
and
know,
they
and
don't talk about it. That's a huge stigma, and I remember getting a little bit of like, "Why can't you donate?" And I was like, "I don't want to donate. I don't want to
nobody
have any
mentioned,
reminder that I don't have my baby. Why would I do that?"
yeah, you have to give it to someone else's baby, but I know people who do it and love it because it's like the gift that
Yeah,
another baby can give someone, and that's
right.
great. But no one
I
actually
just
told me
couldn't.
about it. And I just was at that time like, "Oh my gosh, this hurts and I need to get rid of it," right?
Yes.
So that's all I did, but
One of my biggest pet peeves is like when people get wrong breastfeeding information, because after my first was born, I got 45 nursing hours in exclusively breastfeeding and yeah, there's so much misinformation and the binding is the worst thing you can do.
yeah, so my tips are up now if anyone wants to comment, share. I actually haven't commented back because there were some really nice comments but I found one new mom that way. She just went to the funeral. Like
Mm,
she found this video the day before the funeral and she
of course I
commented.
did. Ugh,
I was like, "Oh my God," like, so I'm messaging her and I'm like, "Geez, please let me know if you want to talk." And it's so lonely. And I just hope that people who do find us realize like you aren't alone, regardless, like you feel like the only one in your community this has ever happened to and your
we
family.
want to talk to you. We want to make you feel okay because we all want to kill ourselves after. We don't want to be alive without our babies. And the loneliness is just so much heavier, because there's no one who's talking about it except a very small group of people.
Yeah, it's getting bigger online now, thankfully. So
Oh, yeah.
if you find one of us, you'll find a lot more. And, with Push, we have a really nice change makers group that we all just talk on WhatsApp all day long and send each other articles and like,
So many messages.
this happened to me, and like we just commiserate and support each other because I do feel like, so my page was always called something else. And then when I ended up making it public, I went to Still My Son because at that time I was actually in a period where I thought like nobody's talking about Owen anymore. No one
Mhm.
cares. No one's bringing it up. Even on anniversaries, I wasn't really getting a lot of support. And like, but he's still my son. I want
Right.
people to acknowledge him. And so I changed it to that.
Perfect.
And when I started being public too and finding all these friends, then I started to realize like maybe like expecting the other people who haven't been there for me to be there for me in this way was like impossible. Like they will never understand what I'm going through.
I know they should. You don't have to have empathy. You don't have to go through what someone else goes through, but like, why is it so hard for people?
Yeah, but not only that, I think that it's kind of like with your husband. Like if you want your husband to be everything to you, it's not fair because he's not a woman. Like he doesn't know how to watch the flicks he like and sit there and do nails with you and stuff. So it's similar. Like I feel like unless you're a lost parent, you cannot fully say the things I want you to say or feel them with me, Where
Hmm.
now I feel like because I gave, I guess, myself permission to like let go of the feeling like I want everyone to be there for me this way. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, this is all they can give me. So let me find people who can give me what I need. Okay, these families and these women have lived through it and they know, and they're like saying Owen's name and they're saying, oh, he's so cute, things that you want them to say, but people are too scared to say that they don't get that that's okay to say. So I'm getting so much like a greater feeling of support now that I've opened it to like other people that can give it to me. So I just want to say that because I feel like we all feel so disappointed in our family and friends and
Yeah.
even partners sometimes you're like, why aren't they doing more? And
Hmm.
that is what drags you down too, where you're like, gosh, nobody cares. It's like, it's not that nobody cares. It's that they really honestly just don't get it. And they're lucky they don't get it, especially
Right.
friends.
We hope they never get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, when you do find friends that are true friends, like they'll send you pictures of your brother fly around and they'll do stuff
Hmm.
that you're like, wow, you thought of Owen today. That's so sweet.
Hmm.
And they'll like make things for their own child for their birthday and include your child. And it's very bittersweet, but it is something that we need to keep going every year. because it's a lifelong thing that we have to go through together.
You don't just grieve and then it's over.
Mm-mm.
Anna, I want to thank you so much for taking time to talk about your Instagram, your advocacy work, just you as a person and as a warrior mom. Thank you so much for being there for so many people and all the ways in which you're going to be there for people in the future and all the babies that you are definitely saving via TikTok, via Instagram. It's really inspiring. Thank you.
It made me laugh with the TikTok because I never wanted to be on TikTok and I hate
You're
TikTok.
amazing there. Your responses are amazing.
But
TikTok is
I
the worst.
finally got on TikTok, and that's actually where my first viral video came from. And I got an
Mhm.
article on the LA Times written about my TikTok because somebody said I triggered her and they were pregnant. And I was like, wow, like TikTok actually reaches millions, whereas if you put it on Reels, you might get a few thousand. And I do have
Mhm.
a few that are pretty viral on there too now. But I was like, it's worth the time and just like using it for me
And
because
reaching people.
also yeah, you get to a different community too, even of lost parents, because there's a lot of women on there that don't use Instagram. So I'm glad I did it. Actually, Chelsea and our group is one of the women I met first, and I just loved her. She was so sweet. And I was like, you know what? There's some cool people on here. I thought TikTok was just weird stuff. So now I'm on there. And so if you find me there, but I want to give a little plug for the Big Push March, which is
Mhm.
coming in Washington, D.C., October 15th for Pregnancy Infant Loss Awareness Month. So anybody who can join us in person, it's going to be just a big gathering of all of us. We're going to walk with empty strollers. I got mine at the flea market the other day for Owen. I just bought a little umbrella stroller because it was a Ninja Turtle one, and that was one of his first birthday themes. So it just called me, and I was like, I have to buy it. I'm going to push that around for him. So I plan to be there, God willing. And if you cannot be there in person, please still register at bigpushmarch.org. And you can either do it in your own community that day and just hashtag Big Push March or Big Push 2022, I think they're calling it.
Mhm.
Find the hashtag, use it, and post a picture of yourselves walking with your empty strollers and videos, because that'll be part of the event when we start broadcasting that. And if you have a satellite event near you, you can also attend one of those. There's quite a few on the website there already. If you want to host one as well, feel free to reach out to us. But I think it's important because we're trying to reach, the masses with that one. We're hoping to get a lot of press. We're hoping to just talk about our babies, bring so much attention to this issue. And it's a crisis. It's a neglected crisis, which, there's no other big health issue that it doesn't even have registries or protocols. There's nothing for stillbirth prevention here. So we're just basically be out there marching and shouting and talking about our babies and hoping that the bills have passed by then. But if they haven't, we're going to be promoting the Shine for Autumn Act and also the Maternal and Child Health Stillbirth Prevention Act 2022. That's the one that Healthy Birthday is behind, which is Count the Kicks
Mm.
organization. So that's very important to us. I'm actually going to DC next month to speak to my senators and our congresswomen so I can talk to them about the bills and just hopefully get these through this year, because for me, every day counts. 65 babies are going to be still
Yes.
born today, minimum. COVID has made it worse. So we can't,
4 times worse.
yeah, we have to start doing things to change this. So if anyone can promote the bills, please let us know. DM me. I can tell you how to do it. You can look at my bio links too
Mhm.
on Still My Son. I have everything in there. We appreciate your voice and sharing your babies, because all our babies matter and we need to talk about it. We can't let this just happen to people. It doesn't just happen. We're letting it happen.
Mhm. Truth. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ray. Have a good day.